Well, that's the most definitive word we've heard yet on whether, in fact, it was a car bomb. We were just about to raise that question, and if, in fact, there had been a crater. That's one of the telltale signs that a car bomb has been exploded in front of a building. The mayor saying there's an 8-foot crater, and a couple of cars at least have been joined by the heat and the force of the explosion. And that makes the most sense in terms of the nature of the damage to the building and how they could then have avoided whatever security existed at the AP Murrah Federal Building. That's the correct name of it. We're now told it is a complex in downtown Oklahoma City, housing more than 500 workers. How many civilians who were there doing business at the time, we don't know for sure. We also heard the assistant fire chief talk about the long, long hours still ahead to try to extricate people who are trapped in the rubble. And of course, the great danger here is that that building could come down on the rescue workers at any time. Those of you who remember what happened in Los Angeles at the time of the Northbridge earthquake, very often in the middle of the night, the rescue workers would have to very quickly leave a building as one floor or another began then to cave in. So they'll be in there shoring it up first and then trying to remove the people from the tons of wreckage of steel and concrete as several floors simply collapsed. We still do not have a number of fatalities absolutely confirmed, probably as many as 8 at this point. That could include 6 children. It is expected to go much higher than that, given the number of people in the building at the time. We don't know who planted this bomb or placed the car bomb there or why. A good deal of speculation, but so far no one, so far as we can tell, has called to take not credit but responsibility for this mendacious act, this absolutely evil act that not only cost so many people serious injuries, but probably cost a good many lives as well, and struck at the heart of the federal system, not just at Oklahomans. And then, of course, there is the psychological damage and the emotional damage as well. Dr. Neil Livingston is an expert on terrorism who was in Oklahoma City not too long ago talking to civic groups about the danger of terrorism striking anywhere in America. In fact, Dr. Livingston, there's been another gas attack, by the way, in Japan at the Yokohama rail station now. We've had the attacks in Argentina, the attacks here, the attacks in Pakistan. In fact, it's very hard to guard against this kind of cowardly terrorism, isn't it?
That's right, and terrorism is very, very cyclical. A few years ago, everyone was saying, well, it appears that the age of terrorism is over. And what we see is it comes back and bites us again when our guard is down. It's just too easy to do. There are even manuals that tell you how to make bombs that you can buy through the mail and probably allow any individual to become a terrorist in the United States. So it's a problem that we're going to have to get better at anticipating, at hardening our buildings, and
it's time to. And as you peer there into the middle floors of the federal building, John
we
Hanson
are
told
now
us
turning to the ongoing coverage of the bombing with our CNN affiliate in Oklahoma City.
Calls for help. You can imagine that happening there as you peer into the debris. John Hanson telling us that this will not be something that is taken care of here in a matter of hours, but this is going to be a process that could take several days. They're already bringing in generators, bringing in lights as they prepare themselves for what will be a very, very long evening of search and rescue through that entire building. 9 floors in all, and as you see, as we earlier were showing you the aerial shot, just about the entire, all 9 floors had at least one section of them completely scooped away from the building. There you can see it looking up the front face of the building, and this was just shortly after the explosion had first occurred, when the fires were still burning in the cars that had been adjacent to the one that we believe started all of this. Mayor Norrick telling us that he's been told that it was a car bomb loaded with about 1,200 pounds of explosives that started this entire thing.
Well, we were talking about, Devin was talking about the rescue effort, which is going on and will go on for days. It's going to be really tricky, though. That building, as you can tell, is just extremely unstable. Worries of collapse and everything else, but they're going in there for those people who are crying out for help right now. And again, we mentioned that 62-member rescue and search squad flying in from Phoenix. They have equipment that will help them detect sounds from people who are trapped inside. They're one of the 5 or 6 units in this country who can do this, and they are on their way right now to help out. We will be seeing a night search, a day search, another night search until everything is taken care of. down there.
We've got a correction on one of the blood donation centers in Edmond. We've been telling you it's been at Hobby Lobby. That was our understanding early on. It is at the Blood Institute, which is at 3434 South Boulevard. The address has been correct. We were sending you, we apologize for that, of course, information.
We've been watching the local coverage of the Oklahoma City bomb explosion. We will have more information as it becomes available. Needless to say, Len, this is an ongoing tragedy, and we'll have plenty of reports throughout the day. Back to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Toria. In other news, the U.S. Supreme Court is taking up
just one thing that will be looked into, but as far as you're concerned, really still no information, no credible information on who caused this.
No, I have a feeling it was not. I think that was someone with another purpose to make it appear as if it was the Nation of Islam. But again, that's just conjecture at this point. It happens to be something that the President agrees with. So there's no way of telling at this point whether or not that has anything to do with it.
All right.
We do know it's a terrorist type of, this is the conclusion you have to come.
Senator, are you satisfied with what the President told you about the federal response, that everything's being done right now?
I'm satisfied with the federal response, and I'm also satisfied with the state response. I talked to Governor Keating, and I think we're doing everything we can. And but again, it's a tough one to handle. We're just going to have to get to the bottom of it.
Lots of questions out there today, Senator, regarding this, and I'm sure lots of Americans are scratching their heads and saying, Oklahoma City?
It can happen anywhere. If it can happen there, it can happen anywhere else. And I think that, and the President, again, stated this, and we both agreed on this, that it's, first we try to save the lives that are there now, then we try to find out what it is, because this is too well orchestrated, in my view, not to be something connected with terrorist activities, and we're going to have to stop it.
Stressing that we don't know who's behind this. We did talk with the former Oklahoma Congressman Dave McCurdy earlier today, who talked about some Islamic groups that are in that city that have caused concerns and have been watched. What do you know about that?
Well, I just wouldn't want to comment on Dave McCurdy. He was the one I beat for this job, and I don't think that he has any information other than what the President has, and I just talked to the President. I think it's probably doing a disservice to be coming to conclusions concerning the Nation of Islam at this point.
Well, what will people need in Oklahoma City as this day and the days come afterward? What will they need as the shock wears off, as emotions set in, as we hear more news of those that have died? There is information that children have died in this.
Well, and there are currently people trapped. The current thing that is being done right now is to save the lives of those lives that are endangered at the present time. Then as soon as that's over and the dust settles, we'll have a chance to look at it and see, and of course try to find out who is responsible. That would be the first thing. So we'll have to reflect on that tomorrow and see.
If no one comes forward and claims responsibility, how confident are you in the investigation afterwards that they'll be able to piece this together and come to some conclusion?
Well, I seriously doubt that anyone would come forward and claim responsibility unless it's some nut out there, and there are a number of those, of course.
Our office building and our executive director have been severely wounded by flying glass, so there were a lot of people severely injured in nearby buildings. So it really is our worst nightmare come true.
Is there anything in the Oklahoma political climate that would suggest that this kind of desperate act would occur?
I don't think so at all. We're a very law-abiding, peaceful people. Being internally in the United States, inland, we have come to not really fear these kinds of actions. But again, as we learned during the Persian Gulf conflict, there were attempts to infiltrate even the central parts of the country. The only thing I can think about at this time is that we did have some of our FBI folks, ATF folks involved, of course, when the Branch Davidian matter occurred in Waco, and I know there are various speculations as to whether or not that could be involved or whether or not we're here dealing with some international terrorist organization. But the truth of the matter is that it's impossible to seal our borders, and even the central parts of the country are not immune, obviously, from this kind of attack, even if it's orchestrated internationally.
There are some buildings, the adjoining buildings, that probably will be out of commission. So you'll have a very large percentage of the population unable to carry on their jobs. and it's going to be an inconvenience. It's going to be perhaps a tragedy in some cases.
All right. Senator James Inhofe, we know you are in your airplane getting ready to take off for Oklahoma City. Thanks for taking time to talk with us.
Thank you, Natalie.
All right. We'll continue our coverage. We have suspended programming for now ever since this happened this morning, and we'll continue with more for you in just a moment.
Assistant Fire Chief.
Bomb squad told us that if there had been a secondary device, that the violent explosion from the primary device would have detonated it. So we have bomb squad members inside the building with our rescue teams. In case we do come across something, they can take care of it immediately.
Okay, so the original word on the street of possibly as many as 3 bombs in total is not necessarily true at this time?
Nothing that I know of to confirm that.
Okay. Now, we've also, obviously, we just have a big bus driving by, so you can probably see it and hear the noise, so I'm going to speak up a little bit here. We've heard rumors, and again, tell me if this is confirmed, 6 children dead and 2 adults so far.
Okay, we've heard 8 dead, but I don't have the breakdown yet. I'm going back inside the building now, Jeff, to try to get a more accurate count of things for you, and I'll be out in about an hour. I'm going to go in with our crew and see how we're doing.
And one final thing is that there was a word on collapse, and you mentioned that earlier, right after the initial bomb blast. Part of the building collapsed. Has there been any other collapse since then?
We've had some minor secondary collapses inside the building, and that's going to happen to us. We've got to be very careful as we remove rubble that's unstable. There's some things that we don't want to cause for ourselves, but that's always a possibility right now, and yes, we have had some secondary collapses.
What about other buildings in the area that are very, very close here? What about any of these other buildings that have been hit hard about this with this blast? Are there any other buildings that are in serious danger right now?
Yes, Jeff, across the street, and there are some area buildings, as you can see, that have some pretty significant structural damage. These people are going to have to get structural engineers in those buildings to check the integrity prior to letting their employees back in. Again, I think Mayor Noik this afternoon will have an announcement as to if people want to stay out of downtown tomorrow.
Okay.
So.
Well, tell me about the emotional effect on the firefighters and the rescue people that are working. You've brought people in as far away as Tulsa, Davis, Oklahoma. There's people from all over the state coming in here. What kind of an emotional toll are these people going to be facing, and are you setting up an emotional triage for your workers?
Yes, sir. We've got a critical incident stress debriefing area set up when we bring our folks out. It is emotional. I've met firefighters coming out of the building who've had tears in their eyes from crawling through and looking at the devastation both to the building and the people. And it's emotional trying to rescue people, and it's very taxing, and but we're going to be here and throughout it, and we're going to do the very best we can.
John, thanks for your help.
Thank you.
Appreciate
That's John Hanson, who's the Assistant Fire Chief in Oklahoma City. We want to remind all of you that some of our stations will be leaving us now. We will have continuing coverage throughout the day on this NBC station. Tonight, of course, on NBC Nightly News, and later on Dateline NBC. Some of those stations will be leaving us now, but we will have continuing coverage.
Earlier compared it a little bit to the way that a tornado works, with the way that the air...
From above went down, and it just kept falling. It was a horrible noise. Horrible noise.
What did it sound like?
I don't know. I didn't hear I didn't hear a noise. It was just after what had happened, whatever happened, just the roar of the whole building crumbling. And where I was sitting, it was the only place the floor didn't cave in. I mean, right over here, the floor was gone.
So the floor that you were sitting on didn't cave, but all around you it did?
No, my little area where I was sitting, but I was on the 7th floor, and then, of course, the 8th floor came down and went through, and then they just kept on going down. Listen, there was a window to a hall by my desk, and I crawled over and got out, and when the stairwell was still lit, the light was on in the stairwell.
I'm fine.
Are you?
Yeah.
How do you think that happened?
I happen to be in the only part of the 5th floor, our part of the 5th floor that isn't gone. It's either a bomb or gas explosion from across the street here. I just happened to be in that room. It's not the room I normally am in. I was working on a project. it happened, and I was lucky I had a table to dive under.
What went through your mind? Where's the table to get under?
Yeah, what's happening? You know, it's like it happened in slow motion.
I thought it was an earthquake because I resided in California for many years, and it was almost like slow motion. I felt a shake and then began shaking more, and I dove under my desk, and then the glass all came in. I think that helped save me. All the glass was gone. It's all over the office.
Where's your office located? Can you point to it?
Here on the 5th floor, right on the end. I can walk from here, from my office to the door where I normally enter, and there's nothing there anymore. It's from me to these individuals that the building's gone.
So tell me about the building, the part that I'm looking at. I'm seeing the most destruction. What is that? What's there?
Well, for our section, that's our main office area. The only office that were spared was mine and my secretary and my officer, and then a little section of a conference room, which Dr. Espy happened to be sitting in. The whole rest of the office is gone.
Dad was a couple blocks away when he heard the explosion and went back. And I'm sure glad he did that.
Do you understand any other children were injured there?
Yeah, there was quite a few.
Quite a few injured, but they were real efficient in getting the kids out.
What did it look like there?
Basically what you've been seeing on the TV, lots of glass, lots of buildings, you know, debris flying around.
Yeah.
Quite a lot going on.
Yes, he has. Yes.
What are your thoughts right now?
I'm so relieved. And I'm praying for all those other people.
What happened? I understand that he'd just been dropped off.
Yeah, Dad had just dropped him off at the downtown Y. And Dad was a couple blocks away when he heard the explosion and went back. And I'm sure glad he did that.
And you understand any other children were injured there?
Yeah, there was quite a few that were
Quite a few injured, but they were real efficient in getting the kids out and stuff at the...
What did it look like there?
Basically what you've been seeing on the TV, lots of glass, lots of buildings, you know, debris flying around, lots of people with cuts and blood and stuff.
You just drove your top
What did you
think you see when you saw that thing hit?
Well, I was just pulling out. I was a couple of blocks away, and it felt like somebody had rear-ended me in the back of the truck, and I just happened to look back and saw the smoke, and so I just turned it around and ran back up, and from where I was, it looked like the smoke was coming out of the Y building, so I was really panicking at that time, but it just looked like every building there, I was thinking, well, that must be where the explosion took place because of all the... I was surprised at how many of the other buildings were affected, too.
What are the children doing?
Do what?
What were the children doing?
Well, probably just what you'd think, crying and stuff, you know, with cuts and stuff. They were scared, just like...
People involved in the tragedy in Oklahoma City, which has sent shockwaves out to all four corners of the United States. The President of the United States said his top priority was to, first of all, get the necessary assistance into Oklahoma City. That is being effected through a Washington command center and a mobile command center now being set up in Oklahoma City, involving the Federal Emergency Management Association, General Services Administration, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and others. On the line with us is Kathy Garrett of the American Red Cross, who is in Oklahoma City. Ms. Garrett, the President also...
Can we put that the suspect information back up on the screen for everyone if you haven't seen it or didn't have a chance to jot it down? They do have suspect information. This has come out from the FBI. Two of the men involved, perhaps, are Middle Eastern men. One is 20 to 25. The other is 35 to 38, both with dark hair and a beard. And they were both wearing blue pants, black shirts, and coats. The driver, don't have a description on him. But we do know a suspect vehicle, and there it is, a brown Chevy pickup with tinted windows, and it had a bug shield on front. It was last seen northbound on Walker. That would be going away from this building devastated this morning.
We assume probably the clearinghouse on a lot of this will be the FBI, so if you have any information on that, probably the most direct way to get it to authorities is to phone the FBI. And if you have any trouble with that, let us know so we can maybe direct you elsewhere. There have been some appeals.
KWTV in Oklahoma City, our affiliate there, reporting their first line on the suspects that may be considered by the FBI in connection with the bombing this morning at the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. Now to Kathy Garrett, the American Red Cross, who's on the line with us.
Well, those are our three priorities. And we've contacted all of our volunteers. We have volunteers from surrounding counties that are here. And first aid, I would say, is the first priority because it looks as if we have thousands of people that have injuries from this disaster.
Are you saying your problem is being met, or you still need more medical trainees?
Actually, it is being met. We have a reserve of volunteers that are at our chapter house right now, and we'll be using them probably later tonight and tomorrow. But we've had a great response from our community. It's just been tremendous, and it is being met.
How are you set up for this medical response? As I understand it, the hospitals are overbooked, if we can put it that way. Where are you set up, and how are you operating?
We have a first aid center set up, which is basically across from the building, and that's where our first aid people are. We also have a shelter set up at a church that we're taking overflow of people to, people with minor injuries that we can take care of that really don't have to have hospital assistance. That's where we'll take them. But we have 4 major hospitals here that are taking people with major injuries, and right now that's how it's working.
We heard some of the local outlets there in Oklahoma City reporting blood shortages earlier. Is that a problem?
I have not been notified that that's a problem, and if it is, I'm sure that we will have reserves from other communities. Tulsa chapter, they usually back us up in major disasters, and they have a large blood supply, so I think that we're okay. Our chapter house actually doesn't have the Blood Institute supplies our county, and I have not been notified that that is a problem at this point.
Since you are, Ms. Garrett, across the street from where this rescue operation is going on, do you get a sense that things are becoming more under control, or do you get a sense that there's still much work to be done?
It looks like there is still much work to be done. It is just amazing. Right now I'm standing right beside a building that's been destroyed from this, which is across the street. And the destruction is just incredible. Although the people seem to be much more under control, when I got here there was an uproar because there were other bomb threats, so they were moving people back. And the really bad situation with that is that we couldn't go in the building right away, or the firemen couldn't go in right away to get to the people that needed assistance.
Mm-hmm. Are they still pulling people out a little at a time?
Yeah, they're still pulling them out. One fireman just said that they are coming out of there with tears, that there are people that they can't get to, or it's taking a long time for them to get to, and they can hear them crying and screaming out for help. And I think it's probably one of the worst situations that some of these firemen have seen.
What do you sense on down the road, later today, tonight, tomorrow, next week?
I sense that as far as the people, I say that this could take a few days to get to everybody and to clear the building out. I'm just guessing. As far as the destruction that's done, that's going to be that's a long ways away before they get everything cleaned up and back to normal down here.
Can you give us a sense of how this tragedy is binding the community together?
It's amazing. I can tell you from the Red Cross perspective. We have a volunteer base of about 3,000, and obviously they don't all volunteer all the time. And we have had, our chapter house is just flooded with people and with calls. People in the community wanting to make donations of food or whatever they can. Everyone really is pulling together because this is really the first time that anything like this has happened in our community.
We were informed. I didn't get a chance to talk with the federal emergency planner earlier about something we all have heard about but have not necessarily related to a circumstance such as this, and that's post-traumatic stress. Do you have any experience with that?
Yes, and we have workers, our mental health workers. That's what they are there for, to work with the people that actually may not have been physically injured, but they have seen some very traumatic things, and they're there to assess who may need some help in that area and who doesn't need help. One person told me that some of these children are holding up better than the adults. Mm-hmm. They're just sitting there waiting for someone to come get them, and they're fine.
That aspect of the story is sending shudders through all of us who are watching from far away here, and that is the fact that a daycare center was involved here.
Yeah, I cannot believe it. It is amazing, and I think that's what everyone is so distraught about, that there were children in that building. I mean, it's bad enough that it happened, but for children to have been in there as well, it's awful.
Well, Ms. Garrett, are you in need of anything? Is the American Red Cross in need of anything?
At this point, we have such a great core of volunteers. We are really at a point where I can't believe I'm saying that we don't. But at this point, we don't need anything, although to support these type of efforts and our volunteer base and our mass care feeding, the Red Cross can always use donations for disaster relief, and this is obviously what this situation is.
All right, Kathy Garrett, much good luck to you.
Thank you.
And to your people there in Oklahoma City as the rescue operation and the treatment of the injured continues throughout the day and for who knows how long.
Okay.
Natalie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. We want to bring you the latest now on the explosion. The governor's office says at least 18 people have been killed, 6 of them children, in today's bomb blast at the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. Fire department officials say a number of people are believed trapped alive in the damaged building, many of them still may be children. They say they can see the people, but they can't get to them. A daycare center was housed in the building, and many children are among the dozens hurt. Hospitals put the number of injured now at more than 100. CNN has learned a large car bomb outside the building caused the huge blast shortly after 9 a.m. local time, leaving a crater 8 feet deep outside the building. The director troubled by the explosion. He has directed emergency federal aid be offered to help Oklahoma City deal with the aftermath. Capitol Hill sources say FBI officials have been nervous for weeks over fears of increased terrorist activities. Other sources say law enforcement has found links to terrorism in Oklahoma City, and a possible connection between today's explosion and Islamic terrorist groups is being explored. Now we take you to Reed Collins. He's standing by at our Washington Bureau. Reed.
Natalie, thank you. And that's a little precis of what we know so far, but what is to be found out, of course, is the real mystery here in what happened around opening time, office-wise, in Oklahoma City. With us is Jack McGeorge, who is president now of the public.
Are really cowardly, almost satanic people that would slaughter innocent people like this, and I certainly hope that they're going to be apprehended and punished very quickly.
Well, we have had reports recently that the FBI is looking for 3 suspects, 2 described as Middle Eastern. We don't know yet who is behind this, but we have heard reports of some terrorist groups in this country, specifically Oklahoma City. Why do you think this could have happened to Oklahoma City?
Well, it's a shocking thing because it's not anything that you would think of ever happening to a place like in Oklahoma or Oklahoma City. We're a pretty peaceful neighborhood, and I can't think of any terrorist activity we've ever had before. So we're not a hotbed of terrorist activity. There may have been some that were there, obviously, but these are terrorists, and I don't know where they're from. I don't know if they're from this country or not, but regardless, anybody that would do this type of activity, plant a bomb in a public building, responsible for the loss of a lot of lives, destroying many other lives, because frankly, if you're a parent and you lost a child, or if you're lost a loved one that was working there, or they're injured significantly, this is going to ruin a lot of people's lives. It's going to cost millions of dollars. We need to do everything we can do to find who's responsible and punish them aggressively, and I think this makes an excellent case for the death penalty. Anybody that would do this type of activity is certainly worthy of that punishment.
Obviously a tense situation. What are you hearing about the possibility of other bombs in other buildings in the area?
Well, that's something that we've heard about, just rumors. We're going to go about our business and rescue people we can rescue. We had to shut down our operation for about 20, 30 minutes because of that, and that was very frustrating because we were right at the point where we had people and we had to leave them. But we got back to them, and like I said, it's just going to be maybe a 2 or 3 day event.
A moment ago, I alluded to a report on our affiliate KWTV on the number of dead, the carnage associated with this explosion today. We're going to bring you taped version of that report now.
Where the building is. If you can just look right back here beside me, there is the front side of the federal building that the explosion took place at 9 o'clock this morning. I was going to talk with some doctors in just a moment. These nurses from this triage center where we were anticipating they were going to be bringing some of the people who were wounded here. We've set up with about probably 300 to 400 volunteers here. And tell me your name and tell me what they've just told you here at this triage center.
My name's Joanne McCurley. They just told us that they had found 80 people and only 2 were alive, and they told us all to go home.
Okay, so this triage center then is dismantling, is that correct?
Correct, on this side.
Okay, and who told you this about the people who were inside? Who did you get this word from?
The guy in charge of the nurses.
All right, so these other people that are inside, these are casualties then? Is this what you're hearing?
That's my understanding.
All right, this not confirmed yet by TV9, but what we're hearing at this triage center, a very grim picture as we've been anticipating. We know that we saw 2 men coming out earlier on some pictures. I don't know exactly when that was. So this triage center here on the east side, which was the second one, we know that there was a triage center where they were treating people who were coming out earlier that was actually closer to the building. This triage center then dismantling. We've got about 400 volunteers here, about 20 ambulances behind me, and at this point we had seen no activity here. They did not bring anyone here, so that's the scene. I'm going to try to get some more information.
All right, that's KWTV in Oklahoma City reporting just a short while ago on the rescue operation going on at the federal building in Oklahoma City. On the line with us now is Mayor Ron Norick, who is at the center of all this. How are you holding up, Mr. Mayor?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
This report that we're hearing of 80 dead, are people reporting to you the extent of the dead and injured?
We have not got a report on the number. We will do that at about 3:30 Central Time, but
on the carnage here.
A lot of them have already left, the ambulances even leaving. So basically this triage center is going to be a morgue, and we'll just be here throughout the day monitoring it.
Robin, we would like, if you can hold on to your doctor, we want to clarify one point with him in just a moment, but first we need to pass along some information.
There is apparently reports that a third explosive device, another bomb, we don't know if it's 3 or 4, but perhaps another bomb has been found inside that federal building. They are moving everyone back once again. This would be the 4th time that this has happened.
This has happened. One question we have, Robin, if you're still there and if you've still got your doctor there with you.
Hang on a moment. Yes, here.
Please clarify for us, when he talks about there only being 2 survivors, that's of the people we know are trapped in there, right?
Dr. Bob, let me ask you, we need to clarify about 2 survivors. Is this after the initial people came out, or 2 survivors that they did find once they started going inside the building?
Once they started going inside, I was at the site, and the 2 survivors were brought out at that point prior to the finding of the second bomb device. And at that point, everything was totally demobilized from that area. All personnel were removed.
The people who made it out initially after the first blast?
The people who initially made it out, there was multiple injured victims, and I would say probably within the first hour, they were mobilized out of the area.
How do you go about the process of trying to identify people if they were in a state of what you described to us earlier?
I think the Red Cross in Oklahoma City is going to be taking care of that, and if there's concern about survivors, they should communicate with Red Cross. They're probably going to be the center for that.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bob, for being here with us. We'll go back to you guys.
Well, Heidi, I'm, to tell you the truth, a little confused about what we're finding, because we had some report that there were a bunch of people trapped in there that they could talk to. Now we're hearing that anybody that's alive has been taken out.
It's possible that once we were all pushed back and running, that people were still making their way out of the building. Because again, I know there were people that I could see shortly before we had to evacuate the scene. So when they're talking about only 2 survivors, I believe that means once they went back in. Yes, we know of a lot of people who did get out of the building.
Certainly do.
And in various stages of being injured.
Okay. Heidi, thanks very much. Right now.
All right, the latest from KWTV. Mr. Mayor Ron Norick of Oklahoma City still on the line with us. So they are finding survivors. That's what we heard in that report, the triage center reporting that of the 80 people found in the last how much ever time, 2 of them were found alive. So there are survivors, but not many. Mr. Mayor, are you still with us?
Yes.
All right. What is the live broadcast now? We're going to join in and see what it's about.
100, 200 maybe.
Hear people?
No.
Are they calling for help at all?
I didn't hear anything. There's so much chaos up there. You just would not understand. There's so much chaos up there. And trying to be controlled, and people doing their jobs to try to make this a little bit easier than what it is. Couldn't imagine you making it any easier if you take a look at that building over there. But
Can you tell us about the children you have seen?
I'd rather not comment on that.
Were you out there since 9 o'clock, or what time approximately did you
arrive? About 10 o'clock.
About 10 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there a minute ago when somebody yelled they thought they'd seen a second device?
Yes, sir. We were close to the parking area trying to recover a victim.
And do you know one of the medical workers who spotted it?
I believe it was somebody from the ATF. I'm not sure. There's so many people in that area that, you know, once someone says something like that, and after everything that's occurred in the past few hours, it was just a track meet to safety.
It must be tough knowing there are people still in there, and you hear this yell and you've got to run from the scene.
I just want to go home and hold my kid. Thank you.
What's your name? One of the medical workers here at the scene right now, telling us, in fact, before we went live a minute ago, telling us that whoever did this particular thing should die a vicious death for what they've done, after seeing especially the children and adults who've been victimized. And you heard him say just a minute ago that when somebody asked to talk about the children that he has treated today, that was something he just didn't feel up to discussing right now, Jennifer.
And that's understandable. I'll tell you, the video itself is just extremely difficult to watch. I can't imagine what it'd be like to be in the middle of it down there. We have some new fatality and injury numbers to pass along to you. These come to us from ABC, and I will need help from Janice, the producer, back in the control room. We understand, do we, Janice, there are 17 dead. Does the number, is it 19 total or 17 total? 19 total, 17 dead are children, 2 adults so far. This is according to ABC, 17 dead, children, and 2 adults. We've been hearing...
CNN, of course, is reporting 78 dead. Our thanks again to KOCO and the other affiliates in Oklahoma City doing a yeoman's job today, providing the information and all of the pictures, which many people here and other places have reacted to as they did the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing. Natalie?
Lou, we started reporting about this devastating explosion some 4.5 hours ago. We've been reporting straight since. Let's watch now the dramatic first moments as this tragedy unfolded this morning.
Quickly, CNN joins affiliate in Oklahoma City, KFOR, to bring you the latest that they're having live updates on this explosion that's happened at the federal court building in downtown Oklahoma City. This is live from KFOR.
Running around trying to find friends and co-workers. The streets are filled with people, and the streets are just filled with debris, literally covered with tree branches, as many of the trees have been ripped and torn apart. But once again, the Alfred Murrah Federal Building is where this explosion occurred, and that building is devastated. Certainly, people that were in the rooms on that one side of the building, it would be unlikely they could survive, because it is just a mess of hanging rods, glass. It's a huge bomb went off on that side of the building. That's exactly what it looks like. Back to you, Lee.
Okay, thank you, Tara. And again, we're getting reports right then. That was from Tara Bloom. She's about a block away from where the explosion happened. If you look up on the map up on your screen right now, you can see it happened at 5th and Robinson in downtown Oklahoma City. That is the Alfred Murrah Federal Building. If you're just joining us, a disaster happening this morning. You may have felt it. We felt it from miles away. There was an explosion that happened in downtown Oklahoma City. If you step outside, you can see the black cloud of smoke coming up from downtown Oklahoma City from where that explosion happened. Again, at 5th and Robinson, the Alfred Murrah Federal Building. If you have people who work down there, friends, family, relatives, anyone you know, do not try to call down there. Apparently, the phone lines are all busy right now. We're trying to set up a live shot right now. We have a couple of crews working down there. We have one on 6th and Harvey, and another one that's just about a block away from where the scene is, and I'm being handed information right now. One of the things that's happening, we have lots of, watch out for the live shot, we have lots of
traffic problems going on, and you can see everyone here is running around trying to find out exactly what's happening. Lots of traffic problems, and they are asking that you please not drive down to downtown Oklahoma City. Please do not drive down to Oklahoma City, to downtown Oklahoma City. Do not go down there. Do not walk. Stay away from the area, because what it's doing, all that traffic, is hampering emergency crews that are also trying to get down there. In fact, if you're over there, maybe you may even want to pull over to the side of the road and try to get away and out of the way of emergency crews, fire department, police department personnel who are all on their way down there trying to help the injured. And there are many injured. There are many people covered in blood being carried away on...
I want to just explain to you real quickly, we're taking Oklahoma City's KFOR's coverage here of this explosion that's happened at the federal court building in downtown Oklahoma City. The reporter earlier said that there were injured people everywhere. The streets are filled with debris, and this reporter said that it was unlikely that people could survive in the part of the building that's been blown away. Earlier reports said from Associated Press that a large part of the building was blown away, and that it is a 6-story building. It does house a Social Security on the ground floor. Let's go back to the coverage from KFOR.
Who had been hit by glass and had quite a bit of blood covering his face and neck. He seemed to be okay. Walked in on his own power. But we are getting ready for any sort of injuries that will come in. People are being diverted from other departments as they can spare them, come down to the emergency room. Additional physicians are being brought in. The sort of disaster team is being readied here, and some primary care physicians are being are volunteering their time to come in and take care of some of the more minor injuries, so that the emergency department doesn't get clogged up any more than it has to be. But obviously it's a real frantic pace over here. Everybody is sort of getting ready for as many patients as we can possibly handle.
Randy, I have a question for you. Can you hear me, Randy?
Excuse me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Randy, now you say just one, is it just one person that's walked in so far?
Just one has walked in so far.
Okay, and did he walk in on his own?
Yes, he did. He was, I think he was just in the general downtown area. From what little he had to say, was fairly calm, sort of walked up to the counter of the emergency desk and said, "I got hit by glass." And it was obvious that, his business clothes had been pretty well shredded by glass, and you could tell that he had been hit up the side of the head and the neck area.
To go back to take care of whatever we do with our patients on the outside, because there is nothing to do. Everyone that's in the building right now, in 2 hours there was one person found, and everyone else is dead.
Everyone else who's in the building at this point is beyond help, is what you're...
Yeah.
They're unable to reach these people, or the ones that they have been discovering, excuse me, we can't provide help for. I mean, they're beyond help. They're dead.
About how many people, do you have any idea, are in there?
Well, when we were released to come out, the coroner had indicated that he needed 100 more body bags, so he wouldn't ask for that if he didn't need it.
So the indication that you're getting is at least another 100 people dead in that building.
Sounds like it.
How are the medical workers holding up? This is such a horrible, horrible thing. Has any of this reality hit you yet?
No.
We're still living on adrenaline mostly at this point. When you initially go in, you're trying to deal with these things first response, and you go on instinct and adrenaline. It's later whenever the reality sinks in.
It'll be late this afternoon when we all start sitting around together crying, because that's what she'll do. You know, especially with, I don't have small children. My children are grown, but these kids are not alive. I know there were 6 initially that got out that were in critical condition that went to Children's Medical Center, but now the rest of the kids that are in there, there's no help for them.
And do you have any idea how many of them are children? How many children?
There's no way to tell. Parts of the building, there's the third and the fourth floor are in the basement. Second and third and fourth floor are in the basement. The man that fell, that was on the 4th floor, the floor dropped out from him. So if you've got 4 floors of devastation to go through, it's going to take you a long time. It's not like an earthquake hitting.
They're working inch by inch to get the rubble and the concrete and the steel off of these people, and they're just going it's a slow, tedious process right now.
When you say it's not like an earthquake hitting, you mean it's more severe and more profound?
Definitely.
Right. I lived through the San Francisco earthquake, and this isn't like it at all. The building, there's no comparison. This building has been torn and ripped apart from the inside out on that one side. In an earthquake, it breaks into large pieces. This is in small chunks. There's bolts of the building over a city block, you know, down the street. Parking meters are in the middle of the street. Pieces of cars are in there.
Basically, I arrived on the scene about 30 minutes via the ambulance. I was at OU, and there was a strong odor of propane, and on extricating some of the survivors from the building at the time, Robin, a second bomb device was located, and immediately all the medical personnel and ambulance personnel were moved from the area. The whole side of the building was totally gone, and there was body parts all over. Apparently the building collapsed totally within about an hour ago. Dr. Brown just related the fact that there's only 2 survivors that were in the building. The rest are felt to be casualties, and it's going to be
news reports that there have been reports of 2 explosive devices, unexploded explosive devices found. So it's important for us to get the National Guard on the scene. It's important for us to get the law enforcement community on the scene, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, all of the authorities of the state to assist the Oklahoma City Police Department and the authorities in A, securing the area, obviously B, caring for the injured, and C, making sure that this does not recur.
Any idea, sir, on who may be responsible for this, or any idea?
None whatsoever. What, any different plans for what's going on around the Capitol building? Are you beefing up security of the mansion, anything like that, or other state office buildings?
Well, I can't be specific as to whatever security measures are being taken, but certainly whatever security measures are required will be taken. The fact is, we don't know what occurred, who did it, how extensive it was. It's just important that we provide now an immediate response to care for the injured, an immediate response to provide law enforcement crowd control and emergency services to the Highway Patrol and Department of Public Safety and the Oklahoma National Guard, which we are doing. And of course, providing any assistance to the Oklahoma City Police Department and the Oklahoma City authorities they need. This was a ghastly thing that happened, and we want to make sure that those who have been injured will be cared for and that this cannot recur.
Only we followed a bomb squad man in. I assume that they've been all over the building and didn't find anything.
I don't know.
Fertilizer compound that caused the explosion, very easy to obtain. Apparently, according to KXAS television out of Dallas, federal officials are looking for suspects at this time. They are reporting that 3 males of Middle Eastern origin are being sought. The 2 passengers with dark hair and beards. The driver has not been described at this time. Apparently, they rented a brown Chevrolet pickup truck from National Car Rental at the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. These individuals are being sought by federal officials. There's another problem that's cropping up there in Oklahoma City dealing with the emergency there, and that is the weather. You can see in these pictures that there is a downpour now. They said a storm was moving in. It has arrived. And of course, rescue and emergency officials are very concerned because of the broken glass, the devastation there in the building, that any high winds and of course the bad rain will hamper their ability to work through the building and of course could make it much, much more dangerous. And we have several conferences coming up. Of course, the governor is anticipated to make more remarks in about 45 minutes, a scheduled press conference there at the Civic Center in Oklahoma City. And before that, in about 15 minutes Eastern Time, 5 o'clock, we're anticipating remarks by President Clinton about the events that have occurred there in Oklahoma City. And of course, ABC will stay with this and continue to update you and bring you these press conferences as they occur.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Will it be carried out?
I
don't think that we should deal with what ifs. I think we should make sure that those people who are responsible are pursued and brought to justice.
We have a last question, please.
General, the government of Israel has offered its help because it has a vast experience with this sort of thing. Do you know if we're accepting that help?
We will, of course, rely on any additional resource that can possibly be involved and be utilized appropriately in bringing these people to justice.
Thank you very much.
Attorney General Janet Reno, preceded by President Bill Clinton. The federal government pulling out all stops to find the perpetrators of this deadly explosion in Oklahoma City at a federal building this morning. Recapping briefly, the president said he's deploying a team of crisis management experts under the direction of the FBI to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City has been designated a disaster area. President Clinton says justice will be swift, certain, and severe when the perpetrators are found. Attorney General Janet Reno saying that she will pursue every lead in bringing these people to justice. Around-the-clock special FBI command post has been set up in Oklahoma City. I'm Morris Jones at the Fox News studios in Washington. We now return you to your normal programming. Good afternoon.
This has been a Fox News special report.
Waiting for official counts to come in. We're still standing at 19 dead, and we hope it stays there. It's too high as it is already. 17 children involved. We keep hearing it's going to go higher.
Almost certainly. Let's go back to Tara Bloom again. When we last joined Tara has been kind of on the other side of this entire issue, and that is following police along on their investigation. It has led her to a South Side motel. Let's see if where things stand now. Tara?
Well, Devin, I'm at the Plaza Inn on Southeast 29th and I-35. I've just a couple minutes ago finished talking to one of the employees that the FBI has been questioning. She says since Monday night there have been 3 Arabic men staying at the hotel and that they left this morning. Now, she says that they were dressed in Arabic clothes with a burnous, which is that long veil on their head with the band around the forehead that you see the traditional garment. And FBI have been questioning her, and she's been looking in the records trying to find their registration, what names they registered under. Now, we have seen a couple of FBI agents come out. One was wearing blue plastic gloves. So I'm guessing from that they are taking fingerprints and searching the room that the 3 men stayed at. Now, apparently 2 men were staying in one room, and 1 man was had registered 2 rooms to himself, but she thinks that the 3 men were together. Once again, they checked out of the Plaza Inn this morning. Devin.
Okay, Tara, thanks very much. Intriguing in the mystery of it all, though hard to believe that anybody who was going to be behind something like this might be foolish enough to A, stay around, or B, be walking around in very traditional Mideastern garb for a couple of days beforehand. However, since we were talking with Tara again, we will go ahead and repeat one more time for you the All Points Bulletin from the Oklahoma City Police. They're looking for 2, perhaps 3, most likely 2 Middle Eastern men, last seen wearing blue jogging suits and traveling in a brown pickup truck with tinted windows. There you see a printed out version of, in fact, this is a little more exact than of what we've had already. Apparently the first one, 20 to 25 years old. The second one, a little older, 35 to 38 years old. The third suspect, if indeed there is one, would have been simply a driver in this entire incident. And we should keep in mind, we don't know necessarily that the people that they are looking for at the Plaza Inn in southeast Oklahoma City are necessarily what we would term suspects yet. They are people, however, though, that the police would very much like to talk to and question.
We need to talk to David Payne right now. He's down at the Family Assistance Center. David, what can you tell us from there?
Well, I'm at Northwest 36th and Walker, and I've been here about 20 minutes or so. When I got here, hardly anybody was here at all. But about the last 15 minutes, I tell you what, a lot of folks driving up, pulling in and getting out, kids walking up with parents, loved ones, and friends. And it's really a depressing sight here. That's all I can say for the most part. People, they show up here, they take an application out for the most part and a description, and they write down what their loved one looked like or what their relative or their friend looked like. And this isn't where you come to find out whether they've died or they're injured. This is just to kind of connect things together with what you fill out and with what the medical people have. And they kind of meet hands, so later on this makes it a much easier process to find out whether you have indeed lost a loved one or a relative. positive. But again, a very depressing sight here. But folks that are still worried and are looking for that person can start the process now by coming out here. And it's again Northwest 36 and Walker. There's counselors here, and they can talk to you. And then there's also people that and there's sheets of information you fill out. And again, describe the one that you are looking for. And again, when you come out, they can't tell you whether they are deceased or not. It's not that kind of a deal. You just come out and it just kind of makes the process a little bit shorter and a little bit easier. So again, a depressing sight here, but we'll stay here and we'll get back with you a little bit later.
And David, are you still with us there?
Yes, I am.
So this, I mean, that is the first place for people to go to get themselves into the process here, correct?
That's right. This is the first, and I think so far the only place here in Oklahoma City. It's a big facility. It's a big church. And again, come in on the southeast entrance here, and it's plenty big to hold several people, of course, numerous people. And people, as I'm talking to you right now, I can still see them walking up the sidewalk. So I've seen fathers with little girls and little boys coming up, and it's just terrible. I mean, they're just looking for their lost loved one.
Okay, David, thank you very much. Let's go back to Dr. Spangler, who's in our newsroom. You know, Doctor, the thing that cuts so deep here is the death and injury to children, and I know you were involved in a lot of that today. Can you hear me, Doctor? Doctor, can you hear us there yet? Okay, we're still having some microphone problems there. Okay, we'll be getting back to him in just a little bit.
Another reminder, though, for people who are looking for ways to help, most of the blood banks that we have talked to are full and have really all the help that they need at this point. However, still O positive and O negative blood, I believe, were still what we were hearing that the Red Cross needed. Other smaller things, Feed the Children, if you would like to go down, drop by them. Their headquarters at 333 North Meridian and donate food. Feed the Children will then take all of that food downtown to help with all of the rescue efforts and all of the family members of victims who are still down there waiting. There will be a large feeding task to go on as we get closer to the dinner hour down there. So if you'd like to help, Feed the Children is one possibility. Also, if you're a restaurant owner, Feed the Children will pick up restaurant meals and deliver them downtown as well. 942-0228 is the phone number to call if you'd like to get involved with that. And what a poignant sight that is. A little girl with a blood-streaked face, and a scene that we are seeing far, far too often this afternoon.
Dr. Sven.
That's KFOR in Oklahoma City, a joint venture today between CNN and our affiliates there are doing yeoman's work and providing information and remarkable videotape. We have official, confirmed dead now in Oklahoma City of 19, more than 200 injured, and the rescue operation continues. CNN will take a break. We'll be right back.
And commitment and compassion for those who have been injured. It really is remarkable, the lines that have appeared in front of the Red Cross and in front of hospitals to give blood. We intend to honor the dead and honor the living by finding out who did this and never permitting this conduct to recur.
President Clinton has declared this a federal emergency. FEMA will be responding, and they had intended to be here by now, but they should be here shortly to assist in the cleanup efforts. The FBI has been designated by President Clinton as the lead federal agency in this investigation. All the agencies, however, in that building have pledged their full cooperation, and of course, they were the ones most injured. The FBI did not have an office at that federal building, and we did not suffer any casualties, but however, many of our fellow law enforcement brothers were injured, and we still do not have a count with regard to the extent of that injury. We have at this time no assumptions with regard to who caused this particular bombing. And we have had hundreds, if not thousands, of leads from individuals calling in to reputed eyewitnesses. Each one of those is treated very seriously. But at this point, we cannot speculate with regard to who is responsible. Other than that, I think we have very little else to add to that. We will throw it out to questions. The chief of the police department indicated that we had the individuals here that will be glad to respond to any area that you might have. Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about, I know you don't need to get into investigations,
you all may be looking for an improved pickup on Cavalry?
We have, the Attorney General came on right before we began this press conference, and I think she's absolutely correct when she indicated that we are not going to discuss individuals at this time. As I indicated earlier, we have hundreds of potential suspects. A number of coincidences that have occurred. However, to say that it's one particular group or one individual, we're not anywhere near making any statement with regard to that. Yes, sir.
Or how many left in the building?
Chief, you want to comment on what you have there? Is FEMA here?
The only numbers we have right now that I want to give out would be confirmed. We don't want to give estimated or anything that we've seen in the building at this time, so I choose only to give numbers that have actually been extracted and confirmed. We have 58 critical transports that have occurred up to this point. We have 20 confirmed dead in a portable morgue at this point. We're sure that that number will go up because we have seen fatalities in the buildings that haven't been removed yet, but again, I don't want to start speculation on numbers, so we'll update you from time to time, but what you'll get from us are the confirmed numbers at this point.
You don't want to speculate, but however, we heard a second ago from the Attorney General say that there could be 200, 250 people missing. Could you at least go into what's unaccounted for?
We haven't been able to get any unaccountability at this point. I know the agencies are all getting hold of their people and trying to do some unaccountability, but we don't have any idea at this point.
What is the potential for the rest of this building coming down?
Well, we've had the architect early on showed up at the building, and we put him with his blueprints and has looked through the building. We had some concerns about the stability on the west side at some point early on. That was confirmed to be more of a decorative effect on the outside and not structural members. We have some level of confidence that the structure is sound at this point with what's left standing.
Could you paint a picture for us, if you would, of the devastation?
We've been listening to a press conference called by Governor Frank Keating of Oklahoma, the mayor of Oklahoma City, Ron Norick, and various law enforcement and rescue officials there in the city. They were relating the sort of efforts that have been underway, both emergency efforts to evacuate the building as well as investigative efforts. The latest numbers, 20 have been confirmed dead. They're sure the number will go up. Of course, we'll have more coming up shortly on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings and later this evening on Primetime Live and Nightline.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
Headline News, I'm Chuck Roberts. Many people are speaking out. In fact, Oklahoma City officials say 20 people have been confirmed killed from today's car bombing, and many other people, scores of others, have been hurt. The explosion rocked the Alfred Murrah Federal Building downtown. Still no firm numbers on the hurt and missing, and still no suspects or claims of responsibility. Shockwaves were felt as far away as Washington, where President Clinton has promised a strong response. Toria Talley has been following the story all day. She joins us now from the update desk with the latest. Toria?
Well, Chuck, the president finished a news conference about half an hour ago. His statement was brief and to the point.
Hello and welcome to Inside Edition. I'm Deborah Norville. Has America become a terrorist target? That's the question being asked today after a car bomb exploded, destroying the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. There has been considerable loss of life, including the deaths of more than 12 young children at a daycare center.
It just kept falling. It was a horrible noise. Horrible noise.
It was 9 o'clock this morning when the bomb ripped through the 9-story building, sending fire and debris throughout the structure. In addition to federal offices, including the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the building housed a daycare center. Some of the youngest injured were only 2 months old. Perhaps it's only coincidence, but today marks the 2nd anniversary of the fiery conclusion of the federal siege of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. The threat of terrorism seems to be more of a constant in our lives. Today, gas once again filled the Japanese subways. And right now, closer to home, the trial continues in New York of the accused World Trade Center bombers. The obvious question, how safe are we? The bomb that exploded contained as much as 1,200 pounds of explosives, and the fear generated by the Oklahoma explosion is rippling across the country. Security has been tightened at federal buildings throughout the nation. Could it happen where you are? Security expert Philip Stern is managing director of the Fairfax Group, a corporate security and investigative firm. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All over the country, people are asking, could this happen in my backyard? What's your response?
Well, the evidence is clear that it can. And we started 2 years ago in New York City, and people said, could it happen in the United States in general? Many of us in the profession, security personnel, suspected that we were vulnerable in other cities, and this is, I think, quality evidence that we are vulnerable.
Why are we vulnerable? What is it that you believe exists that makes us vulnerable to this sort of thing throughout the country?
Well, the United States is a big, open society. We have no difficulty traveling from state to state. Once you're in the United States, freedom of travel is key. And as we get out of our big urban centers, the New Yorks, the Washingtons, the Boston, that have been on alert for years now, you get to places where the tradition and the anxiety is not there. Oklahoma City would not be on anybody's target list.
It's always difficult to speculate the day an event like this happens, but they're telling us it left a crater 8 feet wide, that 200 people at least were injured, and that the car bomb itself appears to have been similar to that which was parked at the World Trade Center garage and caused the explosion there. Is there a connection between the New York bombing and what's happened in Oklahoma City? Is it reasonable to expect that there would be?
Well, I think it's reasonable to expect there would be some connection. We've been the target of Middle East, certainly rhetoric, and certainly Middle East acts. A number of groups have claimed that the United States is the evil. There's a jihad, it's a religious war. Car bombs are traditional Middle Eastern and European devices for those kind of explosions. So you have empirical evidence to suggest that it would come from there, but it's pure speculation at this point.
Beyond worrying, what can people do to try to protect themselves, to stay safe?
Well, I think the general population has very little ability to do anything but get on with their lives. There are certain key things that one does. If you're working in an office building and you see something unusual, either a large device or package or a car that's been parked there more than an hour, you should report it to your security people.
And don't feel like a fool for doing so.
Absolutely not. I mean, the worst thing you can do is not ask the dumb question and ignore it, because that's when tragedy happens. So we're our own best protection by seeing something that's out of the ordinary or unusual in these situations.
So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and say, I don't like the looks of this over
That's
here.
right. And let the security people check it out.
Philip Stern, thank you very much for being with us. I'm sure your phone's been ringing off the hook today.
They certainly have.
All right. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Our other big story today comes from the Simpson case.
Channel 7, the Tri-State's 24-hour news source.
The entire side of a federal office building in Oklahoma City ripped off by a massive car bomb. Hundreds of people are injured and the death toll is mounting. President Clinton says this was the work of evil cowards.
These people are killers, and they must be treated like killers.
And there was evil at work in Japan today, another poison gas attack.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. It is now clear to the investigators that the enormous explosion at a federal building in Oklahoma City this morning was the work of terrorists. The bomb went off just as hundreds of people had showed up for work, just as children had been dropped off at a daycare center on the second floor. In one devastating moment, the whole front side of the building was ripped away. There is simply no way to be specific about how many people have lost their lives. But the death toll is clearly increasing as the hours go by and emergency teams work their way through the devastation. We do know that 17 children were killed in the daycare center, others injured. It was easy to see why the governor of Oklahoma said this was the work of animals. Our first report is from Aaron Hayes, who's on the scene.
Most people were already inside at work here when the blast ripped the 9-story federal office building apart, shattering floors and the offices inside. Most devastating of all, the daycare center on the second floor destroyed. That was where most of the children who were killed had been.
We pulled probably, I guess we pulled 6 dead babies out and a couple of dead women. It's just the most devastating. Everything fell on top of it. It's the most devastating thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's just like an atomic bomb went off. The ceiling went in and all the windows came in.
I didn't know if it was a tornado or an earthquake. The whole building shook, and then everything just started crashing down on top of you, and you just kind of hit the floor and waited till it all stopped.
This is the main triage area.
For hours, the scene here remained chaotic. People injured by exploding glass and debris stood dazed, looking for help. It was difficult to find enough ambulances to take care of all of them.
Take a hold! Take a hold! Hold it up! Go! Damn it! Go! Go, Kurt! Hold up!
I never experienced anything like it. You feel the concussion, and then next thing you know, you're on the floor covered in glass. Probably lost consciousness for just a few seconds, you know, but it was really amazing.
Authorities now say it appears to have been a car bomb in a vehicle parked in front of the federal building that caused the explosion. The force from it damaged buildings nearby and was felt 30 miles away. Rescue work has made it clear just how much damage was done. Whole sections of floors collapsed.
You can see on the upper floors in one of those offices there are some people trapped up there. They were up there for quite some time while we were there. You can see the firefighter there climbing up a ladder, trying to get as close as possible to those people, but he was shy about 2 floors. Very frustrating for him, I'm sure, just no way to get up there.
It has taken all afternoon for rescuers to recover bodies here. People were trapped inside for hours, and some are still believed trapped here.
We've got some people alive that are trapped beneath rubble that is kind of pancake laying at an angle, and it's going to take some very large, heavy equipment to assist us in moving that so we can get to some of the people.
Outside, friends and family of those who worked here searched for them amidst the confusion. Emergency workers were overwhelmed. For a long time, there was no one to explain what had happened or who had survived it.
We've had a lot of little rocky things getting our way. We found a rocket that was in a bunker inside the building that had fallen down, and the bomb squad took care of that. But again, we're just systematically going through the building. We do still have people, survivors inside the building that we are attempting to get out this time.
I just woke up and I was covered with glass. I didn't know what was going on. I just got out.
And came out and looked, and I saw all of this black smoke and everything, and I ran up here, and then I saw all of the injured children.
As a precaution, all of the city's state and federal workers were sent home. Buildings around the explosion site evacuated.
Let's get you over with everybody else so you can relax, okay?
On the side.
With workers still sifting through debris, it is unclear when this section of the city might return to normal.
Okay.
Late today, Oklahoma's governor, Frank Keating, said the state is in mourning, and he made a vow to honor the dead and living, he said, by finding out just who did this. Aaron Hayes, ABC News, Oklahoma City.
President Clinton came out late this afternoon to make a statement on the bombing. He did not take any questions, but he certainly made promises about what will happen to the killers when they're found. Here's ABC's Britt Hugh.
This has been a tragic and heartbreaking day.
I ask all Americans tonight to pray.
The whole building just felt like it was caving in. I didn't know what was going on.
Help me.
We need to pull together to save lives.
The eyes of the nation and the world are focused on Oklahoma City. Terrorism hits the heartland, and hearts feel for our city.
Oklahoma City this evening has lost its innocence. Our nation is mourning for the many who lost their lives.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Cherokee Ballard. Jack Bowen has been at the scene all day.
We continue our coverage. We began our coverage this morning about 9:30 to bring you the very latest. Right now we have Jack Bowen, who is standing by live at the scene. Jack, first of all, any new information you may have and your perspective?
There sure is. Gary Myers, Oklahoma City Fire Chief, has an update now on the casualty toll.
We currently have 27 that have been confirmed taken out of the building. We do have numerous fatalities in the building.
That's the number of bodies when you say 27 at the morgue right now.
That's correct, yes.
And should we expect a lot more?
Yes, we know of confirmed still in the building that hasn't been brought out yet, but I don't have a number that are in that building.
As you can imagine, Jennifer, amongst every emergency agency involved in this, hospitals were the ones really running on pure adrenaline. Nearly 500 people were rushed to Metro hospitals in the frantic moments just after the explosion.
The people they were dealing with were cut, broken, and certainly hurting. Our medical reporter, Jane Braden, has been covering the situation at the local hospitals all throughout the day. The hospitals train for disasters, Jane, but I don't know that anything could really prepare them for something like what they had to deal with today.
No, Jennifer, no one that I talked to today was prepared for what they saw. And what they saw was absolutely incredible. Their hospital, which has orderly emergency rooms, which has orderly criteria for putting people in the hospital, were in just chaos as the ambulances were coming in waves, dropping off people, going back, coming in waves, dropping off people. Cars were coming in. There would be pickup trucks pulling up, and people would just unload out of them, bringing victims out with them. It was an incredible scene, and we have many pictures from earlier this morning when it was at the height of the crisis.
The scream of ambulances. So many hurting people, they had to unload some in the streets. And still, the ambulances kept coming. Wheelchairs lined the sidewalk, waiting for victims. Doctors and nurses were literally racing to help.
It's been a nightmare. Lots of facial lacerations, lots of blood.
There was a terrible moment when it all seemed to stop, as a 2-year-old little girl was taken from the ambulance, dead. Some people were in shock, grateful to finally be in the arms of a doctor who could make it better. Doctors, nurses, technicians came from all over the area.
We've had an amazing outpouring of support from the medical community.
An army ready to help. Load after load of medical supplies came in from around the state. These were caring people wanting to fight this attack the best way they can, with healing. 2-year-old Evan Pendleton is finally going home. He was hurt at daycare, the YMCA daycare, safe at last in the frantic arms of his parents.
I'm so relieved, and I'm praying for all those other people.
All those other people were beginning to learn their names to put a face to this crisis, and that makes it even more real to us.
Let's go down to Jack Bowen, who is live at the scene again. Jack.
Awful as what happened today is, when the worst happens in Oklahoma, it always brings out some of the best in Oklahomans. One of the ordinary people who became a hero today as a volunteer, a man named Bill Bay. Bill, so you know, some good news. We actually have video of you in a picture a minute ago helping a lady, and the lady that you were helping this morning, and we're told that we have that picture up on the screen right now, and we're told by some from back at the station through sources that they have some other people who helped her, that she is alive and doing okay at this point.
That's great news. That's wonderful. I mean, it made it all worthwhile. That's great, Jack.
You know, isn't it, as you think about this... Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. You know, as you think about this today, one rescue worker walked out a while ago and talked a little bit about what he thought, what kind of person, that he couldn't believe what kind of person would do this sort of thing, and especially as you look at another human being and see the misery that was inflicted, it must be awfully difficult to believe.
Jack, I never realized what type of a position I was putting myself in. It could have come caving in on me at any point in time, but I never gave that one thought. All I wanted to do was help this one lady. You know, she wanted help, and I was there for her.
Bill helped a lady named Dana for 3 hours while she was trapped today. Went home afterwards, contacted, found out what hospital she was in, talked with doctors. She was in surgery at that point. We believe a limb had to be amputated. He says he'll be checking back tomorrow. Has a large emotional stake in what happens to her. Jennifer, Cherokee.
And Jack, an update for you you'll be very interested in. We understand that Bill Bay has been in contact with with at least the doctors who have been working with Dana, and he was told this evening, just a few minutes ago, in fact, that she is doing fairly well. So that is some very good news. Good. It has been, as you can believe, an unbelievable day for all of us. Just unconscionable terror. You can't imagine the animals that had to be responsible for this. Our 5 news crews have been all over the story since about 9:04 this morning. The pictures of this tragedy are unforgettable.
It is awfully hard on rescue workers. You get to the scene, you want to help.
At least 5
firefighters.
There's just one person still in there?
Right, that's what it appears. And that person appears to be a construction worker, probably somebody that works with the crane company. The firefighters have all gone inside.
And again, you know, they may have been doing this on the other side, back in another part of the building, and we just couldn't see it. They may have been taking firefighters up to different levels to look for survivors and look for victims. And this may just be our first chance to get a glimpse of what they're up to.
Heidi, that crane has been in front of that building all evening. Have they yet to use it on this particular side, as long as you mentioned that? Is this the first time they've used that?
This is the first time that we've seen this basket go up. I'm not sure what else it may have been doing. It has been there, as you say, for some time this evening. They brought it in when it was still daylight, late this afternoon. So I'm really not sure what all they've been doing with it up until now, but this is the first time we've seen them use this basket.
Heidi, hold on just a second. Tamara, you can see this from where you are as well. What can you enlighten us any about what may be going on? We can see them moving debris around inside on that floor, but other than that, we're kind of at a loss to know what's going on.
We've counted about 6 to 7 people in and out of that basket. They've been lowering it up, lowering it down. No one has been inside the basket. We can tell you that much tonight, Jennifer. Obviously looking for any signs of life, anyone who may be inside still, any victims, any fatalities. The chopper, Oklahoma City Police chopper overhead, shining a little bit of light on the building that you can see. They're spotlighting the areas, maybe looking as well to see if they can find anything. Now, the good news out here right now, besides the fact that we did find 2 people alive inside, one of them in the basement. You can see the helicopter there spotlighting the area, hopefully looking for victims. Obviously, that's not where the basket is, so I'm not sure, you know,
Tamara, that may be, it'll be interesting to see if they will focus that down where they're trying to search here. But it doesn't seem to be, does it?
No,
they seem to be just looking around the building.
They seem to be too high, as a matter of fact. The basket's all the way down to the bottom. Now, keep in mind, the wind was a real problem earlier, so we didn't see the basket.
2 blocks from the scene. The axle of the vehicle has been found 2 blocks from the scene of the blast, and that's according to a police source talking to the FBI officials. So that gives you an indication of the power of this blast. I'm told that the estimations are about 1,000 to 2,000.
To tell us that, yes, they are being investigated. So apparently all of these little pieces may fit together to form part of the puzzle.
We're staying on this picture, and every now and then, if you look carefully, you can see the firefighters moving ever so slowly.
We are switching you now to coverage being provided by local station KFOR in Oklahoma City.
They have to be extremely careful every time they move something, and yet they're trying to make their way, as we understand, to one individual, one survivor, we believe, who is trapped right now inside the building.
Well, if you've ever played a game of pickup sticks, you know that by moving one stick, you can cause an awful chain reaction, and that is the concern that they've got right now, made all the more difficult by the fact that it's dark now, and the weather has certainly added some problems to that as well, though fortunately right now most of the rain seems to be holding off. It does appear that we are going to have to try and take our good news in very small packages.
Images unfold on television. Much of the national coverage was provided by NBC affiliate KFOR TV, and here's a portion of their newscast from Wednesday evening.
Jana Davis recounts this day that has been in Oklahoma City.
Explosion and the ceiling fell in.
Kind of exploded, the windows came out. Some of us tried to get under the desk. Some of the girls that were by the window we were trying to get to them to get them out from underneath the windows and the desks and stuff so that fell on top of them. We're trying to get them out.
They were in there. Okay.
Right there by that window.
Okay. Give us a chance to sort this out, okay?
My dad works there. I'm sorry, you can't go beyond the elevator.
Eric, wait, where is it?
Right there.
The agony, the terror, frantic relatives desperate to know if their loved ones would be among the very few to emerge alive.
Murphy, this is one of the critical.
It's 10 a.m., just 1 hour after the murderous blast.
the living dig their way out of a cement tomb. Suddenly, rescue efforts come to a halt. Another bomb scare.
They said clear the area. Said it was going to blow again, is what I heard. It's going to blow again? They must have found another device, I guess. That's all I could figure.
For an agonizing moment, EMS workers are forced to abandon the screams of survivors.
They just ordered everybody back, and everybody grabbed their equipment and pulled back.
Tell me about the injured that you had to leave behind. What were they saying? What were they doing?
They didn't want us to leave. We had to leave them.
What did they say?
Don't leave.
20 minutes later, emergency crews return to their gut-wrenching task. They scale indescribable wreckage and a blanket of dead bodies. Their mission? To unearth those who have been buried alive. Soon triage units set up to care for survivors are converted to morgues.
2 different triage teams. We raced around the other side of the building in time to catch 2 children and 1 adult. And there was basically nothing we could do for them. They were gone.
What the word came from some of the staff coming down was that they were having to amputate in order to remove some of those folks because the damage was so extreme. And the best way to get them out under the circumstances was to amputate. Right before we left, they were amputating a woman's leg to try and get her out.
Yeah, they were calling for trauma dressings,
yeah, they
were
bandages
to control the bleeding, I guess, after they amputated her leg to get her out.
From the destruction and death emerges the daunting question, why? Why here? Why Oklahoma City? Why America? Jana Davis, News Channel 4.
As I've recounted for you a couple of times throughout the day, I think the most poignant line, the most gut-wrenching line that we heard all day was earlier this afternoon. We were speaking with a couple of nurses. We were talking about the scale back of the triage units, how they were calling back the volunteers, and in her words, there's no one to save. I think that all hit us like a ton of bricks, if you'll pardon the expression, given that we've had a building collapse. But I think that all really took the wind out of our sails quite a bit. Here's that interview as Tara Bloom was talking with 2 nurses on the scene earlier today.
You see on TV from the shots from this morning, the whole sides of the buildings are blown out. It's just a war zone. There is rubble everywhere. There are parking meters laying everywhere. There are parts of cars laying all throughout the street.
Now, did you see any survivors, any of the dead?
You could not see any survivors at the time. Okay. It's really like nothing I've ever seen or been prepared for, and you know, I would have never ever expected anything of this magnitude.
We had 2 physicians with us, 2 PAs and 6 RNs, and we went in and have been up there for several hours. There is no one that was available for us to triage because they're not taking them out at this point. They can't find anybody that's alive. Like Nikki said, one person did come out that was alive, but everyone else is dead. And we're talking women, men, and children. And this is pretty pathetic that someone would blow up some innocent children.
We still have a lot of people unaccounted for, and I know that a lot of employers were asking that any individuals who might have been in the building who had not checked in yet with someone, please do so. Call the Red Cross, let them know where you are and that you are fine, because they are trying to get those final counts in to let us know. They do want to count for each and every person who was in that building.
I think the most telling way really for us to try and tell this story, because I know most of us here have exhausted any adjectives that we might have had to describe what's happened today, continues to be through the sounds and the pictures of what happened today.
Can I get through to see how she's doing? No. Please. No. There's nobody. They're not letting anybody pass right here, okay? I'm sorry. It's too dangerous in that area, and we're not letting anybody in. If Are they evacuating people? That's what we're trying to do right here. We're trying to get the more serious out. Unless they're injured are being worked on by area personnel right here. You can wait right over here out of the middle of the street. Folks stand down the street like these people in.
Why don't we try and carry off this place where you can sit down, okay? You guys doing all right?
We can sit.
We're trying.
We're going to be all right.
Get all of our people down that way.
That way?
Yeah.
Okay. We got everybody out of the second floor.
Okay, I got everybody. No, everyone this way. Everybody moving up there, okay?
It's on its way. It's just a real busy moment right now. So as soon as we can get you an ambulance here, we're going to have you in here, all right?
Move it back, folks. He's from the daycare to YMC, I guess. Move it back.
Where was that?
Again, that was coverage of the Oklahoma City explosion from NBC affiliate KFOR TV, and there is more Nightside ahead. Stay with us.
On the reaction in the Middle East today.
From Iraq to Iran, from Cairo to Beirut, there was sharp condemnation and denials of responsibility from groups often associated with terrorism. In Lebanon, a spokesman for the Iranian-backed Hezbollah said, "We are only interested in liberating our land from the Israeli occupation. We have no relation with the explosion inside the United States." In Gaza, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which have been quick to claim responsibility for suicide bombings against Israel, were quick to deny any for the one in Oklahoma.
We are not sure that Hamas has no any role in this process.
Many Palestinians worry they will automatically be blamed. Every time there's an attack, he says, people always try to connect it to the Palestinians.
It's just crucifixion war against Islam.
PLO leader Yasser Arafat condemned the attack as cowardly, as did Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. In Israel, many people said they understood from first-hand experience how Americans feel.
It's terrible, this terrorism, but we suffer from it every day.
Now I think they will be they understand better the thing that we are sharing in Israel.
Only Iran suggested suspects, American suspects.
It has been said that an extremist Christian group stationed in Idaho and Oklahoma states are suspected of the terrorist move.
The most distinguishing feature concerning today's reaction was the almost total absence of any hostility or criticism of the U.S. by its enemies, the absence of any support for the bombing by those who have waged or supported terrorism in the past. Don Kladstrup, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
We want to help. We want to reach out and try to minister to people and do whatever we can.
Both of these men should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. Citizens should not, therefore, attempt to take any action against these men.
You know, he was praying and he just blinked, and when he opened up his eyes, he was in heaven. He just went just like that, you know.
A day of grieving turned into a day of hope.
It was a day of hope for missing victims, for their rescuers, and for the worldwide search that continues for answers. Here is the latest that we have on the bombing now. Mike Gautreaux, among others, has done just a yeoman's job of keeping us informed of the search and rescue efforts. And Mike joins us now live from very close to the scene of the explosion. Michael?
Jennifer, we've been on the north side of the building with most of the media, and in fact today we're going to take a look at some of the best pictures of this destruction that you've seen to date so far. We can roll videotape. Officials here let a camera get very close to the building, and you'll see a close-up view. Here we are of the firefighters and some of the FEMA workers as the rescue effort continues in the second day of this. It's hard to get a feel for as far back as we are of just how much destruction there is. And when you take a close-up look like this, you get a better idea of just what they're having to deal with. Huge chunks of concrete, bigger than cars. We've seen some sparks and smoke throughout the day, and what they're having to do is use gas-powered cement saws to cut these huge chunks of building into small workable sizes so that they can move those out of the way. We also got a first look at this. That red and blue tarp is the scene of the crater where they believe that Ryder truck was parked and where the detonation first took place. I'm told that crater is probably 30 feet across and some 15 feet deep down through the concrete of the street. Much of the work by hand, as you see firefighters there as they dig through the reinforced steel. A lot of the cranes here are being used to hoist these huge pieces of concrete out of the way. Firefighters then come in and dig away the smaller pieces. Most of today's efforts have been centered on the front of the building. I know Jack showed you a view of that elevator. It looks like they're trying to get installed over on the west side. But as far as the rescue efforts are concerned, I believe they have put most of their effort into that bottom floor. We did not see any video in any pictures in the video I just showed you, but they have begun putting arrows and X's to mark the spots where they have found bodies today. Jennifer.
All right, thank you, Mike. And the pictures, you know, of the children who were injured and killed in yesterday's explosion It's certainly stuck in all of our minds, but what about their families, the people who were left behind? Reporter Rhonda Chapman today talked with a single mother who has lost her son in that explosion. You see, the young boy was one of the children who was staying at the daycare inside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building.
I just think this can't be happening to me. What you want for? This can't be happening to me. He's just 3. Fortunately, he didn't suffer. You know, he was playing and he just blinked, and when he opened up his eyes, he's in heaven. He just went just like that, you know.
Alicia Chavez's little boy is dead.
We're here for you. Thank you.
Her family and friends listen.
I mean, I can't imagine going through what you're going through. How do you describe it?
You know. Your child is taken away from you, and just a second, you know. You just take him to daycare and thinking that he's going to be okay and go to work, and not but an hour that you're there, you know, you hear this big boom. And
Alicia had just dropped her son Zachary off at daycare, told him she loved him when she felt the explosion.
You know, I just remember him, you know, bending down and playing with a toy, you know. And I just remember seeing that, and that's just the last time I seen him, and left, and that's all.
Later, all Alicia could do was hope and wait that her son would be okay. But shortly after 5, she found out he wasn't. Rescue crews pulled his little body from the wreckage.
He really loved me, and I really loved him too, and he's just all I had.
Rhonda Chapman, 5 News.
Let's go now to Cindy Morrison and Sean Kimmerling out on the front lawn. Cindy?
There have been a lot of volunteers across the metro coming out of the woodwork, and I got to talk with some of the volunteers today, and I'll tell you, it was a very humbling experience. The centers are off limits to the media today, but there's no secret of the good deeds here.
I've seen volunteers go over and comfort them, put their arms around those people, give them the kind of support that you might expect from a family member.
Linda Harris even wanders the area giving ribbons.
Because turquoise blue, because of the Indian color of turquoise, it's a very protective and spiritual color for the Indians.
The tremendous outpouring from Oklahomans has even caught the attention of Elizabeth Dole.
People were, about 800 people were out at the Red Cross chapter yesterday wanting to volunteer. I was told, though I wasn't here, but I was told people just pour it out. And the phones have been so clogged, people wanting to help.
And they are definitely helping, doing just what those in need the most.
People years down the road, they will not remember what you said to them. They won't remember a single word, but they will remember that you were there and that you cared for them and that you cried with them or that you held them or served them food.
Cindy Morrison, 5 News.
School counselors in the Oklahoma City school system are now currently all on standby. Counselors are being temporarily transferred to the schools most in need. Many students spent the day making cards for rescue teams and the victims and talking to counselors about their fears and worries. For 5th grader Tyler Clanahan, it just doesn't seem fair.
Well, I think it's really stupid that someone would do something like this because it's killing innocent people. It's not fair.
Other children, like Riley Hancock, are feeling angry.
Let me at them. Let me at them.
Well, school officials say offers of help have come from school districts across the country. Madeline Cunin, Deputy Secretary of Education, has offered federal crisis counseling assistance. And that was their news, a report from station KOCO in Oklahoma City.
And you're watching.
I understand that we've got the tape now. I'm sorry? WJVK, I apologize, is our station that's participating in all of this, and we should have some pictures from them to see the farmhouse where this activity is ongoing. There you see the farmhouse right now. This is where 2 individuals, we believe 2, maybe more, were being sought. We do not have, and we should emphasize this and cannot emphasize it enough, definitive information about who all these people are, about which, if any, groups they are associated with, beyond what we have been told by our sources. You heard the President, the Attorney General, and the Director of the FBI say very emphatically that the investigation is ongoing, that much is yet unknown, and that they, in particular, must see many more pieces fall into place before they will be prepared to speak definitively about who or what are involved. Agents are on site at this building, we are told. We will be back.
Massed outside a farmhouse in Decker, Michigan, about an hour north of Detroit. This farmhouse said to be owned by two brothers with possible links to the bombing. They are identified as James Douglas Nichols and Terry Lynn Nichols. Law enforcement sources say those two men and McVeigh were expelled from a paramilitary group for being too radical. Officials are refusing to speculate on what motive any of these suspects might have. President Clinton spoke about a half hour ago about these latest breaking developments. He said there is still much to learn and once again cautioned against premature speculation.
I have never, and the Justice Department has never said that it was a foreign threat. But the most important thing that you understand is that even though this is a positive development, this investigation has a lot of work still to be done in it. And therefore it would be wrong to draw any conclusions. There have been lots of twists and turns in this investigation, but I would say to the American people, we should not assume, as I said yesterday, that we should not assume that any people from beyond our borders are involved in it. We should not assume anything except what we know.
The Justice Department says a Jordanian-American man described as a possible witness to the bombing has been released. He was flown back to the U.S. yesterday from London for questioning, and sources tell CNN he was very cooperative. He's no longer considered a suspect or a witness. Instead of going back to Europe, in fact, he's going to Oklahoma City himself voluntarily. Rescue crew...
Dilapidated garage or farm building or shed of some sort. They go back and forth between there and seem to be searching around. Not in any great hurry, I might add, either. They're sauntering, if anything. There doesn't seem to be any urgency in their actions, but they are looking, as said Sheriff Strickler, they're looking for some type of evidence in this house.
Ed, the pictures that we're seeing, the aerial pictures that we're seeing, show this as a farmhouse in wide open, what would appear to be very rural country. Can you tell us a little bit about the area of Decker, Michigan?
Yes, this is thumb country, they call it here in Michigan. If you held up your right hand, it would probably be at about the first knuckle of your thumb, just where it bends. It's extremely rural. They grow a lot of celery up here. It's apple country. Very, very agricultural company. That some people think it's the forgotten side of Michigan, but it is all very flat, wide open spaces, about 65 miles north of Detroit.
65 miles north of Detroit. Are you familiar with any kind of, we have heard suggestions of some kind of Michigan military type of connection. You're based in Detroit. Have you heard of any such things in the past?
We have heard certainly of the group known as the Michigan Militia, which is a paramilitary group. Their tenets include getting government out of our lives. They also want the United States to get out of the UN. Because they think that the UN is simply doing no good. As we reported before, we spoke to the head of the group a couple hours ago, Ken Adams, who said that his group should not be construed as an anti-government group, but more of a pro-government group. They just don't want so much government in citizens' lives. They do have paramilitary activities. They had quite a demonstration at the state capitol a few months ago. They dress up in the military garb, but they say that they are paramilitary, but they are not militant.
Okay, Ed Garston, thanks very much. We will be back to you monitoring events there, very telling events, perhaps. And as things become clearer, we will, of course, be going back. Now to Perry, Oklahoma, where the suspect is under arrest. Greg Lamont is there outside the courthouse. Greg?
Well, Perry, Oklahoma is about 50 miles north of Oklahoma City. Population here about 6,000. We're told the main industry here is a company called Ditch Witch, which makes digging equipment. As we understand it, 27-year-old Tim McVeigh was arrested for speeding on a local highway here in Perry on Wednesday. He was taken into custody for a check on possible other violations. The authorities here say that they did not know who that they had into custody until the composite drawings were released by the FBI late or early yesterday. And once they saw those, they felt that they possibly had a match on McVeigh. He was described as John Doe #1 by the FBI. That would be the person with the crew cut. As we understand it, he is inside the Noble County Courthouse, Noble being the, Perry being the county seat of Noble County. We've got quite a scene out here, several hundred people from Perry coming out to get a glimpse of Tim McVeigh. We were attempting to talk with the police chief here, Police Chief Fred LaValle. He came out a minute ago and said he was not in a position to make a comment. As we understand it, McVeigh will be brought out of the courthouse, put into a car, and transported to an awaiting federal helicopter about 6 miles away, and then transported to Oklahoma City, where he will be arraigned by federal authorities. He again was arrested on Wednesday, shortly after the bombing, as we were told, again, presumably for speeding, and then a check on possible other violations. A couple of hundred people out here, anxious to see what this person looks like and see what's going on. Back to you.
Greg, can you provide any further details? We heard from Janet Reno that he was arrested about an hour and a half after the bombing incident. You mentioned that you're about 60 miles or so north of Oklahoma City, and she said he was in possession of a firearm. Do you have any further details on any of these things?
That is one of the things we were told that brought him into custody initially. Obviously, if he was simply stopped on a speeding charge, he would have been given a citation and let go. As we understand it, there was a possible firearm in his car, and that's why he was brought to Perry to be further investigated. And then when the composite drawings were released by the FBI, the people here decided that they thought they might have a match.
Okay, Greg Lamont, thanks very much. We'll be back to you. And we will continue our coverage of these dramatic developments and these fast-breaking events after this break.
This is a Nightline Friday night special.
All right, they're going into the house. They are walking into the house.
The pursuit. The arrest. The two suspects now in hand, believed to have ties to a militia.
I've been over there, I've watched them make bombs, you know, small stuff. I mean, nothing that would do any devastation like this.
They're kind of in the mindset that there's an act of war against the people. And in an act of war, all is fair.
Tonight, the bombing in Oklahoma. The fear that investigators have uncovered just the tip of the iceberg. This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
The story becomes even more unsettling and disturbing with each passing day. The suggestion these past couple of days that some alien terrorist group might be responsible didn't diminish the horror in Oklahoma City, but today's developments pointing toward homegrown terrorists makes it seem in some ways even worse. You will hear a little later in this program from a couple of men in Decker, Michigan. They are neighbors of the three men who are now being questioned in connection with the bombing. What they told me earlier this evening, having to do with experiments in bomb making and a passionate anger against the federal government for its actions against the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas 2 years back, is circumstantial but telling. You will also hear from the commander of a group calling itself the Michigan Militia. He makes clear that such grievances about Waco are widely held. But as I say, we'll come to all of that a little later. To begin with, Chris Bury in Oklahoma City brings us up to date on this day's developments.
As night fell, 68 was the confirmed death toll. Another 4 bodies were discovered tonight in a building across the street from the federal building by rescuers using tiny television cameras. The winds here are picking up tonight, and safety is a real concern for rescue workers. On this day, the only comfort was the welcome news that the FBI had apparently cracked the case. This morning, their hope for finding the living all but gone, rescue teams turned their attention to removing the dead, including more children still entombed in the wreckage. The daycare director asked parents to bring in birth certificates with footprints to help in the identification.
I'm lost for words. I don't have any
any information for anybody, any names or anything. I just want everyone to be fully aware that everybody is doing everything within their power and their ability to get any of these loved ones found.
Keith Coverdale's 2 sons were dropped off at daycare Wednesday morning.
I'm a realist. I'm always going to hold some sort of hope until I see my kids or else hear it from the medical examiner. But in all reality, there's very slim chance that my kids are still, that they lived through that blast.
Melvin Howell's wife was a teacher in that daycare center. This morning, he got word her body had been found.
I just wanted them to find her, you know.
You just wanted to know?
Yeah, if she was dead or alive. That was the biggest suffering I had, it's didn't know her, not knowing.
To signal they shared in the grief, morning commuters turned on their headlights. In Washington, President Clinton, announcing plans to attend a Sunday memorial service in Oklahoma City, had a special word for the children.
My message to the children is that this was an evil thing. And the people who did it were terribly, horribly wrong. We will catch them and we will punish them.
I was kind of scared because I thought he was going to come closer to my neighborhood and do the same thing.
At the Nichols Elementary School in Oklahoma City, children were making cards and sending messages for the rescue workers.
You're doing very well helping patients get well. My heart is pounding with joy. Love, Brittany.
By mid-morning, as forensic teams scoured Oklahoma City streets for the tiniest shreds of evidence, the FBI agent in charge sounded a newly optimistic note.
We are very, very confident that we're going to move rapidly forward with the progress of this investigation and hopefully move to a successful conclusion.
At the scene of the crime, where crews dismantled the federal building brick by brick, the pace was painstakingly slow. But the investigation was breaking fast. By midday, the first of several stunning developments.
One suspect, according to our sources, is in custody now. And we can also give you a bit of a hint now as to where the government appears to be focusing its investigation on some of the what are called right-wing white supremacist groups in various parts of the country.
That suspect, 27-year-old Tim McVeigh, the crew-cut John Doe #1 in the FBI sketch, had been stopped for speeding in this Mercury Marquis 60 miles north of Oklahoma City about 90 minutes after the bombing. State police took him into custody in nearby Perry, Oklahoma. As ABC's John McCarthy reports, McVeigh almost got away.
Normally, he would have been out in 24 hours. And it was not until this morning that the FBI happened to ask local authorities in Perry, Oklahoma, who is this man who you are holding, that local officials finally realized who they had, John Doe #1.
This small town has been transformed into the center of the nation's largest criminal investigation.
Just as the media descended on the Noble County Courthouse in Perry, Oklahoma, federal agents began swarming around a farmhouse in Decker, Michigan, the home of James Nichols, a former member of an extremist paramilitary group known as the Michigan Militia.
All right, they're going into the house. They are walking into the house.
Squeeze the triggers. Don't pull the trigger or jerk the Squeeze the triggers.
The rifle-toting militia, whose members train in camouflage fatigues, share an opposition to gun control and a disdain for the federal government.
When our own Army and Navy decides to stand against the Constitution of the United States of America, we'll call on a higher court.
The Michigan militia was formed last April. Like similar groups across the country, it grew partly as a response to the federal raid at Waco, Texas.
The Michigan militia, like militias throughout the country, have a central tenet. They feel like the federal government is overzealous and out of control and is overreaching and is trampling the rights of citizenry, and that only an armed citizenry can keep the national authority in check.
In Washington, Attorney General Janet Reno confirmed the arrest of Timothy McVeigh, the John Doe #1. Reno hinted at a wider conspiracy.
I remind everyone that John Doe #2 remains at large. He should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. There is a strong likelihood that other persons are involved in this tragedy as well.
The man originally identified as John Doe #2, Terry Nichols, surrendered this afternoon in Harrington, Kansas. The Justice Department now describes him as a potential witness. Late today at the White House, President Clinton underscored the Attorney General's assertion U.S. officials would seek the ultimate punishment.
As I said on Wednesday, justice for these killers will be certain, swift, and severe. We will find them, we will convict them, and we will seek the death penalty for them.
Tonight in Perry, Oklahoma, suspect Tim McVeigh, among the most wanted men in American history, was escorted from the courthouse. Agents led McVeigh to a waiting car and a convoy to a local airport for a short helicopter ride to Tinker Air Force Base near Oklahoma City. As McVeigh was being moved, his father was taken in for questioning in Buffalo, New York. Tonight at Tinker Air Force Base, McVeigh was arraigned on a charge of malicious damage to federal property and taken away in a convoy of flashing lights to the El Reno Correctional Center, just a few miles from the building that stands as a tomb for some of those he may be accused of killing in one of this country's most terrible crimes. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in Oklahoma City.
There is no question about the identity of the man the FBI has been calling John Doe number 1. He is, as you have heard, Tim McVeigh, and he has been formally charged. What is not so clear is the identity of the man known as John Doe number 2. Tim McVeigh has given as his place of residence a farm in Decker, Michigan, belonging to two brothers, James and Terry Nichols. Both of them are being questioned by authorities tonight, although James Nichols, we have just learned, has now been released. But those who know both those men say that neither one of them looks anything like the sketch of the man identified as John Doe number 2. If and when we learn any more to clarify the issue, we'll let you know. A short time ago, we spoke to Mark Gibson, the district attorney handling the McVeigh case in Perry, Oklahoma. He told us the story of how Tim McVeigh was first captured and came very near to being released. Mr. Gibson, as I understand the story, you were about 1/2 an hour away from being a very embarrassed assistant district attorney indeed.
Well, I wouldn't say embarrassed, Mr. Coppola, but we all got very fortunate.
What happened?
We were prepared to have a bond hearing for Mr. McVeigh this morning about 9:30 a.m., and at that time I was finishing up another hearing before that, and as we were finishing up the last hearing prior to Mr. McVeigh, the sheriff received word from the federal officials that they wanted to hold Mr. McVeigh, that he was the suspect in the bombing.
When you say you were going to hold a bond hearing, if he'd been able to come up with, what was it, a $5,000 bond, he would have walked?
Yes, sir. In fact, if he had come up with $500 in cash, he would have made bond today.
Is there any reason to believe that he had the money or was likely to get the money?
Yes, he told the judge that he had $2,000 in cash. Now, I can't verify that myself, but that's what he said.
Why was it that he was taken into custody in the first place? Can you just explain how that happened?
Yes, sir. Trooper Hanger stopped him for not having a tag on the car he was driving, and at the time of approaching Mr. McVeigh in the car, then he discovered a loaded Glock 9mm in a shoulder holster. And so Mr. McVeigh was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon in a car.
And when was that?
That was at 10:20 a.m. on Wednesday morning, which was just 75 minutes after the bombing.
So, in effect, you have had this man in your jail since just a couple of hours after the bombing.
That's correct.
The country has been plastered with pictures of McVeigh, and I don't want to make this sound as though I'm badgering you, because I don't think I could identify anyone from one of those pictures either. But as you look at that, handbill now, and you look at Mr. McVeigh, is there a similarity?
Yes, there is a similarity. I had not actually seen Mr. McVeigh yet at the time that we were notified that he was their suspect. Trooper Hanger and I discussed it afterwards, the arresting officer, and we both agreed that although he looked similar to that, neither one of us would have picked him out and said, yeah, that's the man they're looking for.
Now, had he been cross-examined in any way? Had anyone talked to him?
I visited with him briefly before the bond hearing, and then he visited with the judge a little bit. But that was primarily about where he lived and what he did and where he was going, that sort of thing.
And what kind of an impression did he make on you?
Very calm. In fact, that's the same impression that the trooper had of him when he arrested him. He was not nervous. He was not upset about being arrested or about being charged. He said he had never been arrested for anything before. but very militaristic. Everything was yes sir, no sir, speak when spoken to, and standing erect. Very polite, very relatively soft-spoken.
Again, and I just want to ask you one more time, as everyone in the jailhouse now thinks about what happened, I mean, here the whole country is looking for this person, and the picture has been distributed about as widely as a picture can be distributed. How does that sort of thing happen?
Well, I just think that, as I said, even now, having seen again the picture and Mr. McVeigh, I would not necessarily think I'm going to pick up the phone and call somebody. I think that's the guy they're looking for. There is a similarity, but certainly not an incredible likeness. And it's just fate and pure luck that we did in fact hold him long enough that the federal officials were able to determine they wanted him.
Mr. Gibson, I thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Koppel.